Tonight on the Black Channel, do black people really have to work 5 times harder than white people? Well, according to Bill Maher, that's just a zombie lie. Let's get into this. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media. This is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, it's fallen to me to go ahead and discuss this, because, as we all know, Bill Maher has been a mouthpiece put out by the white supremacist media. And of course, he's had to learn to tamper some things down some because he was showing his colors a little bit too much there. So he's been trying to dilute it and put a little curb on it here. And I wanted to go into this because I thought it was a very interesting thing, especially in 2024, when we're talking about reparations. We're talking about the only things that matter here. And Bill Maher was talking to Charlemagne, the god of all people. And Charlemagne, of course, can't help but to be tongue-in-cheek about everything, because the court jester will do that. We need facts and figures, and then they go send the comic relief. Very easy to knock down in that regard. So what I want to do here is I want to play for you what Bill Maher said, and then we're going to address this.
Controversial things he said to the graduating class.
Okay, now he's talking, I believe, about Joe Biden addressing Morehouse, and that he told Morehouse that, you know, what good does it do for black folk when we have to work 10 times harder than everyone else? So Jim Crow Joe Biden and everybody else trying to hide behind the cloak of righteousness now. The folks who built the walls against us are now claiming that, oh, look at that wall over there. All right, so he's talking about Joe Biden made these remarks.
One of the more controversial things he said to the graduating class that you have to be 10 times as good to get a fair shot in America. And can I read what Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter, you listen to their podcast, I think they're great, said about this. Lowry said, I thought it was the kind of speech you'd have given in 1974, maybe 1984, but not in 1924. McWhorter, for goodness sake, can we please admit the time passes? I remember my mother saying that in the 70s when it still made sense. It's simply not true anymore, and we should celebrate that. You agree with that?
I don't know if it's 10 times better, but maybe 5.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
You think you have to be 5 times?
Yeah, when you black in America, absolutely.
In 2024?
Yeah, when you're black in America, when you're a woman in America, if you're a black woman in America, absolutely.
I think that's a zombie lie.
Why?
Because I just don't think that's America anymore.
All right, so now you have heard the entirety of his comments there. So nobody can claim that there's a bad context to it. First of all, Charlemagne laughing when there isn't anything funny, and that's, in any case, there's a reason why they bring those people on. However, Bill Maher sat there, and when he was told black folk have to work 10 times harder, Charlemagne's like, well, at least 5. Okay. This is why they get privileged Negroes. They go and grab them and put them up there so they can start massaging the numbers. But then Bill Maher says, I don't believe that. And Charlemagne's like, well, why not? Because I don't believe that. I mean, you heard he said this. I'm white and I say so. I don't believe that. Well, why not? I don't believe that.
If you're a black woman in America, absolutely.
I think that's a zombie lie.
Why?
Because I just don't think that's America anymore.
I think that's a zombie lie. Why? Because I don't think that's true. No facts, no evidence, know anything. Well, I just don't think it's true. I just don't think it. I'm white, and I say so. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to have there. I thought that was an interesting thing to have, because if you're going to be doing things like that, and if you're going to have that be the hill that you're going to make your stand on there, and I think it's also important that we bring some facts into the equation of it as well. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at that, shall we? Why don't we go ahead and take a look into that? And what we want to do here is we want to ask ourselves a simple question, folks. Whether or not the things that we're seeing are mathematical, or whether or not the things that we are seeing are engineered. Now, I can actually go for low-hanging fruit in this regard. I can go for low-hanging fruit if you really want me to here. From the Washington Post, I mean, we are still talking about how black folk are 90% of the workforce in the NFL. None of the management, well, none of the ownership and management, very rarely that. The numbers skew. The more the wealth is stacked up, the more we're erased. The lower the wealth, the lower the money, the lower the rewards, the more we're represented. Now, if that's not the definition of working 10 times harder, then there is no definition. But by the way, here's a sterling example that persists to this day, just one among many. A sterling example right there. You can just say 3 letters, the NFL. That's working 10 times harder than the white guys and getting, well, if you actually do make it to be a black coach, you probably had to work 30 times as hard just to get the same job. You worked 30 times as hard. You waited 3 times as long just to get the same job. Not enough for you all? You need more? Oh, you want me to go off into the numbers of it there? That's okay. I can deep dive into the numbers for you here. CNN, white Americans have more wealth, far more wealth than black Americans. Here's how big the gap is. Now, I want to go over these numbers here because there's a point. Although black and Hispanic Americans have accumulated more wealth in recent years, their median net worth still lags far behind that of white Americans. The net worth of the typical black and Hispanic household in 2022 was $44,900 and about $61,600 respectively. Now, did you see those numbers right there? The net worth of black and Hispanic. Never mind the fact that most of those Hispanics identify as white. They are, even if they don't identify as white openly, they are accepted by the society as white. They can pass for white, especially if they don't have a Hispanic surname. They can pass for white, something that is denied black people of Hispanic or non-Hispanic heritage. So they never do that break out of these numbers to acknowledge that. But in any case, they say that black folk have a net worth of $44,000 and Hispanics have a net worth of $61,000. That's up more than 61% for black households. Black households. There's another deceptive term, by the way, black households. Does that include married couples as well? You know, where you have 2 people working? Or are we counting individuals? Of course, you're counting households. So that's up 61% for black households, 47% for Hispanic households since the Fed's last survey in 2019. Even with these gains, their wealth remains only a fraction of the white households whose median wealth was $285,000 last year. What? Did y'all get that? $285,000, up 31% from 2019. So you see they've got a gigantic head start and it's only getting bigger. Because their number is so huge, their number going up 31% dwarfs our number going up 61%. Because they've already got such a gigantic head start. 31% of gigantic is always going to dwarf 60% of below average, below mediocre. 61% of small isn't going to catch up to 31% of gigantic. Now, it then goes on here to say that Asian Americans had the highest median net worth at $536,000. The first year their wealth was broken out in the survey. Now, I want to deal with this because this will be a talking point that white supremacists and white supremacist adjacents, hello, Bill, will sit up here and try to trot out. Somebody had even brought this up in the comments section when I posted this on Twitter. Somebody had mentioned about Asians. I think tonight is a good opportunity for us to go ahead and do some clearing on this and clear the air about a misnomer. I know that Dr. Claude Anderson, for decades now, has pointed out that who are the people who have the highest income or tend to be Asians. However, I've always tried to tell you all there's a caveat to that. When I spoke to Jared Taylor for my documentary film Race War, he tried that one with me. He thought it was going to go one way. It went totally another way. And as you all saw, I stopped him dead in his tracks. So it's a logical fallacy to read Asians into this metric the way that you do black people. It's a logical fallacy to do so, and I'll go ahead and explain that to you here. Asian Americans had the highest median net worth at $536,000 the first year their wealth was broken out by the survey. Edward Wolf, a professor of economics at New York University, said Asian Americans have higher incomes and much lower poverty rates than white Americans, which drives up their median wealth. That's a misnomer. By the way, we'll come back to that though. So they talk here about record wealth levels. The median wealth of white and black Americans has now surpassed their earlier peaks, which were prior to the Great Recession. Okay, that's not counting inflation. You're not counting how inflation has devastated anything. We haven't gone anywhere. The growth in housing wealth, a home's market value minus any outstanding mortgages or loans secured by the home, has fueled the overall rise in net worth among black and Hispanic Americans, in particular, according to the Fed survey. People, listen to me. You're about to get a master class in wealth tonight and logical fallacies, so I can go ahead and explain that to you. A house is not wealth.
What?
A house is not wealth. The reason why it is mistakenly put in that category is because, in the words of Robert Kiyosaki, yes, I'm quoting him, but he was correct in this regard, a home is counted as an asset only because the banks, which, by the way, who is it who makes the loan to you for the mortgage for the house? Oh, the bank says your house is an asset. The bank says your house is wealth. Because they categorize it that way. Not because it is functional wealth, certainly not because it's liquid wealth. No, simply us, the people who make the loans, we classify that as an asset. Yeah, we made the loan to you, and we say it's an asset. We do. Because if we need to recover it, well, we want to make sure it gets full faith and credit value. So how many of y'all caught that before now? By the way, the folks who make the loans on the houses, they're the ones who classify the home as an asset and thus, by extension, say that you have wealth. And that can't be true. It can't be, because what you're doing is making the inference and the implication that a house owned by a black person has the same value as a house owned by a white person. And you've seen study after study, news story after news story about how black people are not given the same loans, even when their income and credit profiles are the same as a white person's. The house they can get is always cut back on, and their resale value is always diminished. You don't get the same benefit ever, and yet they're telling you that you have the same type of asset. Now, we just sat here and debunked it. I want you to remember these things, so when you hear this stuff, just repeat my words to people. That's it. Debate's over. Furthermore, we know that what black folk have isn't as valuable because by definition, the white folk got $285,000 worth. You got $44,000 worth. Very clearly, your house is not worth as much as their house. Whatever you do have as assets, very clearly you either don't have enough liquid, or what you do have solid, it ain't worth as much as theirs either. Theirs are worth more than yours by leaps and bounds, and at this point, light years. To the extent that all things remaining equal, you could never catch up, which is the point. Now, they put up this little graph here that shows for Asians, for whites, for Hispanics, and then for black. Notice the number for black is so damn short, they had to put the number out here to the side. Everybody else, they could put the number inside the purple bar graph. Ours is so small, we couldn't even fit in here. Couldn't even get us in. While they're talking about record levels of wealth, when you're the poorest people, and they're talking about record levels of wealth because of home values, home prices. But folks, if now you're living in an era of high inflation and high interest rates, so white folks' wealth can be tapped into. Yours can't. You can try it, but you're going to take a hideous risk that you're going to lose your asset. You're at a severe disadvantage. So yeah, technically you have, quote, wealth in there. You just can't tap it. You can't access it. Well, if you can't access it, it ain't there. They're playing mind games with you. They're playing mind games. Now you take a look up here and it says the percentage of change in net wealth by asset type. There's only one asset type where we have a bigger increase than everybody else, and that's, quote, business equity. So what that tells you is that black people have had to rely on our own ingenuity because the rest of the damn economy is rigged against us. So if we can come up with an idea or put ourselves to work, that's the only thing that works, because all these other things, houses, stocks, those are rigged against you. You can't use those because they're rigged against you. They can rig the game, rig the numbers, and you can see from the evidence here, yeah, they sure do. Even over here where it says housing, I already explained to you where that's a fallacy. I've already explained to you how that's a fallacy. This number would need to be far, far bigger. The only place it truly applies is business equity, and even there, that one doesn't really measure up either. Hell, what white folk got in stocks is right there what you have in business equity. Their stocks are going to be worth more. Now, I want to go down here to some of their methodology. It says soaring home prices in recent years have boosted homeowners' equity. Meanwhile, Wolf said higher inflation also helped increase the net worth of black and Hispanic households. Inflation increases the net worth. All right. Net worth consists of assets minus debts. So if the value of someone's debt declines, their net worth increases. Black and Hispanic households typically have larger mortgages. Do they tell you why they have larger mortgages? And because the value of their debt declined after adjusting for inflation between 2019 and 2022, their wealth increased, Wolf said. Quote, it's really a combination of rising house prices and the high mortgage debt of black and Hispanic families. High mortgage debt. that has led to a greater growth in their wealth than white families. So in other words, they're playing accounting tricks to sit up here and classify us a certain way. They're playing accounting tricks. Now look at this next part right here. This is meant to make you feel better about falling behind. Meanwhile, black Americans have made strides in home ownership since 2013, though their rate remains below where it was in 2007 before the Great Recession led to many people losing their property. Damn! Well, what do you know? When you keep reading, they throw in some qualifiers that let you know, by the way, you're not going to afford as much as we. Yeah, that headline doesn't actually paint the whole picture. Why don't you feel wealthier? You don't feel wealthier because you're not. That's why you don't feel wealthier. If the headline were accurate, then you would feel wealthier because you would be wealthier. You don't feel wealthier because you're not. And then they finally have to break down and concede why it is. You've made strides. How the hell are you making strides since 2013, but you're further back below where you were in 2007? Y'all moved on up in 2013, but you're still behind where you were in 2007. What the hell kind of Jedi time traveling mind trick is this? Do you see these folks? Now, I'm reading their words. I'm showing y'all what this is. And most of you here who can do any slight critical thinking can see the fallacy here. Wait a minute. You just told us that we made strides in the last decade, but that we're still below where we were 2 decades ago. That's not progress. In other words, we've gone backwards. They just sat here and told you that you've made strides. Then they just told you, but you're still behind where you were 20 years ago. That's not moving forward, people. That's moving backwards. But they wrote this damn article telling you, well, you made strides while you're moving. So we doing the damn Michael Jackson moonwalk? And if I wasn't sitting here and dissected that sentence for you and stopped the conversation, Bill Maher would just keep walking. No, let's stop that damn conversation there. We've gone backwards. No wonder you don't feel wealthy. Because you're not. Now, it says here that the share of white Americans owning homes remained essentially flat between 2019 and 2022. Hell, they got all the damn wealth. It has yet to surpass its 2007 rate. It don't need to. Their wealth doesn't come from the year. They weren't ahead in wealth in 2007. They've been ahead in wealth since 1497. Since 1507. So this number is irrelevant. When you sitting on 90% of the damn wealth, you're 60% of the population, but 90+% of the wealth, then this number is irrelevant. The year is irrelevant. They're not going backwards. They already got it. They already got it all. It's not like we're chipping into their numbers. They already got it all. In addition, larger shares of Black and Hispanic households own stock and businesses in 2022, positioning them to keep better pace with white households when the value of these assets rise. Do y'all see this bull crap? Do you see this bull crap here? Well, you know, them stocks you all bought, your GameStop stock, well, don't worry. This is putting you in great position to catch up to white people. Is this a damn joke? Is this a damn joke? They got 7 times your wealth. Is this a damn joke? You got 44,000, they got 285,000. Oh, don't worry. Just buy some Apple stock and when it's going to catch you up to them. Wait a minute. It cannot possibly catch us up to them. Jason, why not? You just defeat us. You just you embracing victimhood. No, I'm not embracing mathematics. Black people aren't the only ones buying stock. And furthermore, we don't own as much, nor do we buy as much as white people do. We can't catch up. They already have a lot more liquid money. It's not like they're sitting back and ain't buying any stock of their own. They're still buying. They're still in the market. Hell, they're way more in the market than we are. We're non-existent compared to their ownership in the stock market. So no, I don't care what stock you buy. That's not going to catch you up to where they are. And about the business ownership part of it, give me a damn break. You can't catch up with that either. Why? Because among the businesses that they own are the banks, which are mobbed up with the Fed. The Fed makes sure that these white institutions not only make sure that they remain wealthy, it makes sure that they can never lose it. You saw that in 2008 when they bailed out the banks. Oh, if you're white and got white wealth, can never be liquidated by law. By law, white wealth cannot be liquidated. That is the law of the land. Their banks are not allowed to fail. Their financial institutions aren't allowed to fail. No, and by the way, we know that pattern of behavior continues still. Remember, Silicon Valley Bank just last year. And oh yeah, by the way, the bailout of Silicon Valley Bank exceeded 2008. Remember, Silicon Valley Bank is only supposed to insure you up to FDIC, $250,000. Here comes Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary. Oh, we're going to make sure the businesses that put in billions of dollars, we're going to bail them out. Yeah, they're supposed to lose money when Silicon Valley Bank goes under, and we're going to bail them out too. Well, that's a hell of a lot more than $250,000. And these are not individual depositors. These are businesses. They made a bet on Silicon Valley Bank. They're supposed to take a bath. Oh, we're going to bail them out. That's not 2008. That's 2023. If I don't miss my years. That's not 2008. That's still going on to this day. Nobody is suggesting a similar program for us. Now, let me go ahead and get a little bit further into this here. I want to get a little bit further into this because you have to understand that folks like Bill Maher telling you all that, well, black folks just ain't trying hard enough is what the problem is. We're not trying hard enough. And if we would try a little bit harder there, we would. There's the real thing, because mathematically, when you break it down mathematically, that's the only thing you could be saying. That's the only thing you could be saying is, well, that there is no racism, there's no white supremacy, and black folk just aren't trying hard enough. That white folk are succeeding on their efforts, and that means that white people are working 10 times harder than we are, because you cannot show where there's any comparison between us. So either black folk have to work 10 times harder to get the same thing as white folk, or white folk are 10 times ahead of us because they're just so excellent. But then again, that will also imply that they're more excellent than everybody else. That includes Asians. Folks, it's time for you to update your files.
Join me, and I will complete your training.
Now, you've been told for decades now about Asians, and I've tried to correct you all about this kind of thing right here, but I want to go ahead and take a moment here to put this in its proper context. Let's talk about racial wealth here, and let's talk about Asians in specific. I want to go down these numbers here because you think it's going to go one way, but it isn't. It's going to go exactly where I've told you it will. I'm talking about Asians, which includes China, Korea, Japan, India, Pakistan, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, and many others. Here's something for you all to keep in mind here. Asian Americans are the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the United States. racial, or ethnic, and are predicted to be the nation's largest immigrant group by 2050. Folks, the buffer class strategy is in full swing. With Kamala Harris, your Asian American vice president, it's in full swing. Asian Americans are forecast to exceed the Hispanic share of the immigrant population and to make up 36% of all U.S. immigrants by 2055, according to the Pew Research Center. Nearly 6 in 10 Asian Americans in the U.S. were born abroad as of 2019, making that most Asian Americans are immigrants. In 2021, the Asian American population was estimated to be approximately 24 million, 7.3% of the total U.S. population. Chinese Americans are the largest Asian American nationality with a population of 5.4 million, followed by Asian Indian, Kamala Harris, 4.8 million, Filipino, 4.4, Vietnamese, 2.3, Korean, 2.0, Japanese, 1.6. The Asian American population is expected to reach 46 million people by 2060. At least that's the estimate. Now, you can see those numbers here broken out in this graph, but I want to go a little bit further here. Now, they're talking about they usually are in New York and California. So I'm just kind of skipping through this, but here's the part I want to get to. We get to income. Pay attention, people. Pay attention. Listen up, Bill Maher. The household median income. The household median income. I didn't say median wealth, but median income. Don't worry, we're going to get there. For Asian Americans increased by 1.8% from 2020 to $101,418 in 2021. That is 43% greater than the national median income of $70,784. Among Asian American subgroups, Indian Americans have the highest median income, $119,000, followed by Filipino Americans, $90,000, Japanese Americans, $83,000, and Chinese Americans, $82,000. Asian Americans are experiencing faster income inequality growth than other demographic groups, according to Pew, as Burmese Americans make a median income of $44,000. Now, let's back up here and go on this thing here right quick. Indian Americans have the highest median income. This is engineered, people. No. Folks, this is the consequence of American policy. By the way, if you like tonight's program, give me the $sign emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. It's 3,000 people in here live right now. But if they're not liking the program, if I'm being a little too esoteric and academic and erudite because I'm going into numbers here really, really heavy, I guess that's a different matter here. But by the way, if you agree with what we're saying here tonight, give me the $sign emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. Okay, folks, let's take a look at where these numbers actually come from as part of government policy. You had an Asian American mayor. Remember the mayor of San Francisco? I think his name was Mayor Lee. The mayor of San Francisco. He was the one who was spearheading that effort to really blow up Silicon Valley and information technology companies for San Francisco. He made that thing one of his policies there. Was it Win-Ho Lee? I want to say the mayor of San Francisco at the time was Win-Ho Lee, I want to say. So remember, that was government policy. Not only that, it also becomes federal government policy because remember, I was reporting to you all at the time about the fact that those people that set up here and first of all, Win-Ho Lee, I got the wrong one. That was for the nuclear bomb. He was a spy. We'll come back to that later. But y'all remember that I was telling you about at the time when they were having flights going directly from India to San Francisco. Remember? All right, that was Mayor Ed Lee. Mayor Ed Lee. I want to go look it up real quick. Can't believe I said Winho Lee. But Mayor Ed Lee. Y'all remember, I've been doing this now for over 15 years, so I have to sit up here and do these callbacks, because if you didn't have us here as the black media, they would not remind you what the real facts were. At the city level, Mayor Ed Lee made that a program. The federal government steps in because, remember, the Federal Aviation Administration has to approve a direct flight from India to San Francisco. That's not something that California does. The FAA got to approve that. The federal government has to sign off on that. You don't get to just start flying planes in from anywhere. You got to get approval for that. So at the city level, the state level, and the federal level, they said we are going to make it American government policy to bring in as many Indian Americans as we can. The biggest planes we can get. And what were they coming here for? Because Bill Gates and the rest of the white men who have hundreds of billions of dollars said, we'll chip off these Asian American Indians a couple $100,000. We make a few $100 billion. They'll make a few $100,000. Ain't even close. Ain't even close. Simple math. So that's how the Indian Asian Americans got their leg up, because the technology companies gave them preferential treatment. All right, let's go to Filipino Americans. The Filipino Americans they're referring to are those in nursing.
Damn!
Oh, folks, we can go industry by industry. California, that's where they recruit their nurses from. My folks in California know that. My folks in Florida know that. My folks in New York know that. My folks in Texas know that. That's where they're recruiting their nurses from. I'm talking about directly from the Philippines. They have recruitment programs in the Philippines to tell them, hey, you can be a nurse in America. All my females in here who are nurses, y'all work with that every day. You know that they brought them over here directly from the Philippines. Hey, you're a Filipino nurse? Hey, why don't you come to Los Angeles? So the same thing that they did for the Indian Asian Americans, that's the same thing they done for the Asian Filipinos. Same thing. Japanese Americans, of course, technology companies, but that's been going on since World War II. Chinese Americans, well, we covered this in my film, Gentrified, but the white corporations that have been enriching China for the last 40 years by offshoring, now that money is circling back around and these people are buying citizenship. Hell, they're coming over here papered up. Yeah, because the white corporations went over there and enriched those people in Asia. So you see, we can go down the list. It is American government policy that has led to this. American government policy in South Korea. South Korea is a direct beneficiary of American government policy and technology policy. You wouldn't have companies like Samsung and Taiwan Semiconductor. Yeah, I know it's Taiwan, but those nations are rich because it's American government policy that they be given that. There's a reason why their places are flush with wealth and flush with cash, and that they offshored building semiconductors over there to South Korea and Taiwan. That was an American product created and made in America, and then they outsourced it and offshored it to Asia. And now these same American technology companies are getting the federal government to give them billions of dollars to bring the production back over to America. So let me get this straight. You gave them money then, they cashed out and took it overseas, and now you're gonna pay them again. Black folk ain't never been given a deal like that. We've never gotten a deal like that. But then again, our oppression is government policy. These people's empowerment is government policy. This is not a fluke. This is not smart, savvy business leadership. Let's get that out your damn heads. This is not them being smart, savvy, sly business people. This is government policy. Now let's go down to the next part right here because this helps put all of this into context. Income and wages are shaped by a myriad of factors, of which education is one of the most important. When educational attainment is factored in, income comparisons between Asians and whites become more complex. What? Now that's how you know the foolery about to begin. I thought numbers were numbers. Hey, Bill Maher, I thought numbers were numbers and this stuff is just outdated. Folks, if numbers are numbers, then apples should be apples all the time. What you're telling me is that we can have a barrel full of apples, but it's more complex than they're just apples. What? But they're all red apples. Yeah, but you know, some apples are more appley than others. They say Asian Americans with less than a high school education make approximately the same amount as white Americans at the same educational attainment level, 29,850 compared to 29,172. However, Asian Americans who finished high school and or undergraduate degrees, that means master's or PhD, bachelor's degree, who finish high school or get their associate's or bachelor's degree, are paid less.
Damn!
Asian Americans who get a high school diploma or an associate's or bachelor's degree are paid less than equivalently educated whites. Oh, you didn't see that coming. Now, did you? You didn't see that one coming. They just directly told you there, by the way. Oh, no, yes. Before high school, they make the same. After high school, even with a degree, they make less. Then how in the hell do they have more median income? Asian Americans with a high school degree earn a median of $41,084 per year compared to $46,657 for whites. Those with a bachelor's degree earn $81,538, lagging college-educated white Americans by $85,024 median salary. Asian Americans' overall median income is higher because the high level of Asian Americans with graduate degrees, that means master's degree or PhD. It ain't to catch up to white folk. It ain't enough to finish high school. It ain't enough to get an associate's degree, and it ain't enough to get a bachelor's degree. Are you listening to me, Bill the Muppet Maher? Even among the so-called model minority, they still have to work 2 or 3 times as hard as whites to get the same thing. They still have to work harder than whites to get the same thing. They're just better at accepting the abuse and ignoring it and going along with it and smiling. We're not as good at that as they are. That's the difference. Now, check it out. It says around 61% of Asian Americans have a bachelor's degree or higher compared to the national average of 37.9%. That's twice, a little less than twice as much. Asian Americans with a master's degree earn $118,688, while white Americans with the same credential only earn $98,430. Asian Americans not only have a higher rate of graduate degrees, but also a greater tendency towards degrees that confer higher pay in the job market, such as business, biological, and biomedical sciences and health professions. Now, did not cover that before, by the way. I covered that before. But by the way here, folks, once again, let me go ahead and take you behind the numbers, because the numbers, I told you, the numbers don't tell you everything. Going off of assumptions don't tell you everything. The numbers here don't actually tell you everything, because remember this other thing that you were told previously. That's why I mentioned it before, and we need to go back and review this now. The Asian American population is highly urbanized. They don't live in the suburbs. They don't live in the rural areas. They don't live in the suburbs, and they don't live in the rural areas. They live in the cities, mostly residing in cities in California and New York, the two most expensive places in the United States. Did you all get that part? I'm sorry, California, New York, and Hawaii. The three most expensive places in America. And that's where they are concentrated. So I submit to you that the reason they got to make this $119,000 is because they're paying so much more. Whereas their white counterparts are getting by better because they can get more bang for their buck, because they're not all concentrated in the same few small, ultra expensive areas. So in reality, the white man making $98,430 has more disposable income and more disposable wealth than his Asian counterpart that you think is doing this up here. He doesn't have more wealth, he just has more work. And for those of you who saw my recent marriage broadcast on my other YouTube channel, I'm hoping now that you're seeing this is a unified ideology. It is consistent across the board. My ideology on this is consistent. You can match it up anywhere. They're not earning more, they're working more. Hell, they got to. And he had to get a PhD to pass a white man with an associate's degree. He had to get a PhD to pass him. Do you know how many extra years he had to work to get that PhD just so he could finally slip past the white dude? He's given up years, y'all. They don't count that cost. Then nobody sits up here and tells you about what that took years to do that. Oh, well, ho-hum. And then you're living in the most expensive areas, so you don't get the full benefit of that $118,000. You don't get the full benefit of this $536,000. You don't get that. To any of you who studied accounting or sociology, for that matter, or economics, you know that what I'm saying right now is absolute truth. Now that we've given you the factors behind these numbers, you know that what I'm saying to you is the absolute truth. Yeah, that's why it don't match up. That's why it doesn't. But let me take you further. Folks, if Asians was balling out like this, please tell me what they own and control relative to whites. You can show me some rich Asian corporations, but they're all in Asia. You cannot show me where they're calling any shots or calling any hands over here. They're going to school, they're getting these PhDs, and they're going to work for a white company. So they are giving their efforts and their wealth back into the white economy again. Because that $118,000 for the Indians, $90,000 for the Filipinos. She works at a white hospital. This Indian up here works at a white technology company. The Filipino down here works at a white hospital. The Japanese here works at a white bank. Yeah, they have some Chinatowns, but that $119,000 is not coming from his enterprise in Chinatown. He has been brought over here and he's getting that working for Facebook. He's working for Meta. He's working for Twitter. He's working for Microsoft. And who are the CEOs, by the way, at Microsoft and Google? Who are the CEOs there, by the way? Just thought I'd go ahead and remind you. Want to go down here one more time. It says another factor to understand Asian American income is household size. In 2021, Asian Americans on average had a household size of 3.4 compared to the national average of 3.0. The larger average household size, coupled with the disproportionate concentration of Asian Americans in metropolitan areas where the cost of living is high, so Jason called it exactly what I said it was. They are now conceding, yes, Jason is right, are important factors in understanding Asian American income more richly than the raw top line statistics. What they're telling you here is that the average Asian household is larger. That means that their families are all living together. They're all grouped together. So you probably got 2 PhDs or a bachelor's degree and a PhD in the same house. And then if you add in the kids, who in Asian households, the kids are allowed to stay longer. They don't kick them out the home, particularly the Asian females. Asian females don't get the boot out of the house the way black females do. Asian American females are allowed to stay as long as they want to or until they get married. So if all you do is take a look at the headline, you don't get the full story. If you don't go into this and dice and dissect the numbers and get to the truth behind it here, you realize that it's been a bit of a fallacy about Asians have more wealth. Because do you all see that as their outcomes? Please tell me, if Asians have more wealth than white folk to this degree, if they've actually got that much actual wealth, where are the Asian skyscrapers? Where are the Asian business parks? Yeah, I know about the Patel family, but that's one family. They're not pulling weight across the board. It isn't like that. They're not going, show me the companies that Asians are making acquisitions of. I can show you the white companies buying Asian ones. You don't have that kind of dynamic happening over here. So just case in point, if these numbers translated for Asians the way that this number translates for white people, then you would see it in the economy as a group, as a whole. And you do not see Asians carrying the same weight or power as a group that you see from white folk there. That's obviously not what it is. So what does that tell you all? That quote unquote wealth without power is useless. Wealth without power isn't power. Any more than a house without an excessive amount of equity is wealth. Equity relative to the housing market. If your equity is the same as everybody else's and your house's value is the same as everybody else's, you ain't wealthy. You're only wealthy if your house is worth more, much more than everybody else, and the equity you have in your home is much more than everybody else. Now you can talk about wealth. These other groups can't say that. The white folk can. They can say that. Plus, they're operating as a group. Plus, they're operating as a group. This is where we are now. Want to go through that explanation of that for you all here so that you properly understand the context. And when you have liars like Bill Maher sitting up here, knowing that what he's saying is false, knowing that what he's saying is untrue, knowing that what he's saying isn't right, that when he was asked about it, he couldn't defend it there. And folks, what I'm saying is the whole thing that led me to this is that that's a logical fallacy. You can't substantiate that black folk are not working multiple times harder than white folk to get the same thing, because you can't name a single asset class that the black person didn't have to put in more work and more effort to get. You can't sit up here and say that they're working the same amount, because they're not. I'm going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines here. And Tariq and Tukeem, you're all required to go ahead and give us a call since you've had plenty to say in the chat room here. we're going to go ahead and give you an opportunity to go ahead and present that to everyone here. So, ladies or gentlemen or whatever you are there, we're going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines for you so that you can go ahead and weigh in on that, and you can educate everybody here and give us the facts and analysis that apparently we didn't have, so we can go ahead and get that straightened out. By the way, they've got a couple of minutes to be on the line there. If they are not, we're going to assume that they are trolling, and we all know that you don't get to stay if you're trolling. So we're going to give them a few minutes here to go ahead and get on the line. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. And we are going to have to insist on the pleasure of your company. It's not going to be just a nice thing to have. We are going to have to insist on it. By the way, while we're at it here, I want to remind you all here that I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here, especially for what we're doing for our crowdfunding efforts here for 8 a.m. Also here, like I say, who's going to put us over 50,000? Right now, we're at 49 here. We got a long way to go here, but I'm definitely glad to have you all with us here. I'm taking a look at the numbers here now. I want to know who's going to put us over 50 tonight. I want to see who's going to put us over 50 here tonight, so I want to monitor that. I want to see who does here, and I want you all to be a part of that. By the way, shout out here to my man, Mr. Isaiah and Mr. Johnson. Thank you all very much for your support here as well. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and see if I can try to get this thing up here one more time. Blog Talk better not be messing around up here tonight. They've had more than enough opportunities to get their lives right. What we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and give everybody a brief reminder on this. Okay, the phone lines just opened up for us here. So, Tukeem and Tariq, and if you've been instructed by my mods to call in, you have 2 minutes to be on the line, which means that you have enough time until the end of these messages. If what you were doing back then hadn't been illegal, how rich would you be today?
My God, I probably would be the richest man in the country. I probably would be richer than Jeff Bezos.
Why are black people the poorest people in the world?
Well, for the first thing that I would start off with is that we are the only people that ever came over here in handcuffs.
So how do we deal with that?
We got to break those chains off our minds. My goal in life is to demonstrate that the same skills that I use in the drug business, had I been taught by somebody else instead of a drug dealer, that I could have did anything.
The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. And we'll be honored if you join us. We're going to go ahead and get over here on the telephone lines. Let me get caller from area code 630. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. It's Nick from Chicago by way of Houston.
Okay, Nick from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yeah, thanks for the broadcast tonight. Definitely Bill Maher and his ilk really, I would say they don't know what they're talking about, but they really do. They are setting up a propaganda, and we're working for them 5, 10, 20 times as hard, and they're still profiting off of it. And then the worst thing on top of that is that we would be the face, like the NBA, NFL, and many other things, but they're getting the credit and the capital, because at any moment that they can find somebody, they're going to throw it, like the Caitlin Clark character. they're going to throw all of the credit onto them. But for the short term, they're going to pat us on the head, give us a little bit of this and that, and then say, hey, it was this other person. Just like the black people that have to train the person that's going to replace them that have absolutely no qualifiers. I've been approached myself related to this to be the black face to a white organization. And I had one along with it. I'm going to admit this one. Back in 2010 or 2011, it was a organization I thought was doing good. That's why I went along with it. But they kept approaching me really weird. They said, we need somebody that's black because if I'm white and I'm a pasty white guy and this guy is in their own words, dirty Hispanic, we can't do this organization because we don't have any credibility. They know they don't have any credibility, which is why every single time something goes up, they're trying to get us to stand up for them. In this case, it was something to do with the police, and I thought it was a legit thing. It was not. But they try to put us in front of it. We're going to be the lapdog. We're going to be the person to take all the hits, and then they make all the money. They get all the credit. So not only do we got to work 10 times as hard just at the basic corporate level, but even in organizations where it's government funded or something like that, we got to work 10 damn times as hard just to get the word out, just to get people convinced in, just to get people signed up to things.
Just to be heard.
Back, putting a battery in our back.
We have to work 10 times as hard just to be heard. We have to work 10 times as hard just to have a conversation. You want to talk about working 5 or 10 times harder? Take a look at how hard it's been for us for reparations. Nobody has had to do what we've done. None of them have been as affected, and none of them had to work nearly as hard to get the exact same thing. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. By the way, we're still waiting to hear from Tukeem and Tariq here, so be there, be square, folks. By the way, on your screens there, you want to talk about folks working 2 times as hard. Oh, Robert Griffith, he's learned absolutely nothing. Robert Griffin III, that big chucklehead nigga, he learned absolutely nothing from his adventures in Beckyland. He's learned absolutely nothing from it. As you can see on your screens, he learned nothing. He went off on that ridiculous adventure, and as you can see, he's learned nothing at all. Not a thing. Caller from area code 786. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, you're listening on your speakers, not listening on the phone. Okay, caller from area code 786 has been ejected. Caller from area code 347, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Caller from area code 347, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Okay, folks are not listening on they're listening on their radios, not listening on their telephones. So 347 and 786, do not bother trying to call back. We won't take your calls here. And if that was Tukeem or Tariq, you'll be banned here momentarily. No, do not attempt to call back in. You're done. If you're calling in on the phone, the very least you can do is actually put the crack pipe down long enough and pay attention to the phone. So that was you were given a chance. That was your chance. Caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello. This is Tukeem from Chicago. You told me to call in.
Okay. How old are you, Tukeem?
I'm 30 years old.
Okay, Tukeem, you sound much younger than 30. Do people tell you that a lot?
Sometimes.
Okay, Tukeem. And by the way, Tukeem, where are your people from?
I'm black, but
that's not where your people are from. Let's try this again.
Well, I'm black, but I'm from Chicago.
Right. Where's your grandmother from?
Nigeria.
All right. Just wanted to make sure we narrowed that down. That does explain why you were making the comments in the chat room that you were. All right, Tukeem, go ahead.
So, Asians and Indians work so much harder than black people in America.
Where's your proof? Where's your proof of that? How did you measure that?
That's why they exploit your own.
Okay, let's try this. Let's try this again. One more time. You're kind of hard of hearing or hard of brains. Let's try it again. How did you measure that? You say they work harder. How did you measure it?
Well, I was looking around on all black people, and I was seeing difference between the Asians and Indians.
Okay, you can't even hold a telephone still, and you're trying to imply that you've got some mastery of something here. You can't even hold a phone still. You want to try again? And by the way, this does not at all sound like an adult. You sound like you're about 10 or 12 years old. Not very bright or educated at 10 or 12, but you sound like a little kid. So why are you lying about how old you are? Who put you up to this? Who told you to call in? Who did that? Because you're obviously not 30-something years old. So who is the adult who's hiding behind this little child? What type of scumbag does that? What type of lowlife? My Nigerians need to figure out where y'all are and get your heads together for you. What kind of person sits up here representing Nigeria and is hiding behind little children and got little children calling me on the phone? What type of lowlife does that? Why don't you go get the adult who told you to call in? Why don't you go and get them, if they can get their lips off their white man's rumps, or if they can get the heroin out of their system long enough, why don't you go put them on the phone? Whoever it is, kid, who put you on the phone, go get them. If it's a woman, tell her, stop sitting up here doing her OnlyFans for Zaddy and come pick up the Obama phone that she handed to you. Go get them.
No.
Because I'm not going to have this I'm not going to have this conversation with someone other than the person who put you up to doing this. What year were you born? What year were you born?
I was born.
Now, I just asked you that twice. If you're the age you claim you are, you should be able to tell us what year you were born. Sounds like you don't know.
1985.
And how old did you say you were again? At 30 what years old? Yeah, how old are you again? Being at 30-something years old, born in 85? How old are you again? Yeah, that went bad quickly now, didn't it? Now, I'm going to give you one last try. Go get the cowardly, low-life, scumbag, gutter-sucking adult who put you on this phone, kid. And I know you're ashamed of them right now, and you should be ashamed of them. You should be embarrassed and ashamed of them. Hand them the phone and tell them to do their own damn dirty work and experience some manhood for once. That's something that you can learn. That's something you can learn from us. You can learn that from us now. Because the folk behind you, because I just heard them, they can't even give you the right damn math for an age. They had time to sit there with a calculator and couldn't come up with the right number for an age. Put them on the damn phone so they can sit up here and take their own ass whooping. You got 10 seconds. Put them on the phone and tell them to do their own dirty work. They're so embarrassed, they're catatonic. This is disgraceful. This is how pitiful and pathetic they are. Hiding behind little children. They're putting little children on the phone. Do you see why we are cleaning up this damn situation about who we associate with? Riders don't do this. Hell, decent, respectable people don't hide behind children. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You want to know where in the world they pick up that mess from? Those are the adults hiding behind kids. They claim to be over here in America and they acting just like Boko Haram. Damn! They sitting over here in America pulling some Boko Haram stuff. Took absolutely 2 seconds to snap that in half. Absolutely despicable and disgusting. Those are the folks, right? Those are the people who agree with Bill Maher. By the way, those are the folks that agree with Bill Maher. Now, if it had been an adult, I would have told him, by the way, does that include Nigerians too? No, it don't include us. No, it ain't us. By the way, I wouldn't put it past our Nigerian tether. I wouldn't put it past him that he went off and got his niece or his nephew, because ain't nobody gonna have kids with his lame, corny ass. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabbed his niece or his nephew. Here, you go call them. That was disgraceful. What type of person, what type of animal sits up and does something like that? That was just absolutely horrid and disgraceful. Let me get caller from area code 254. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Jerome Davis. I'm actually calling from Nacogdoches in my apartment.
Okay, what's your name? Slow down. What was your name again?
I'm Jerome Davis.
Okay, it's like talking to Blur from the Transformers. Okay, Jerome, and where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Nacogdoches in my apartment.
Okay.
And I watch your channel.
Okay, you're calling from Nacogdoches. Which Nacogdoches?
Yes. It's in East Texas. I just happen to have a cell phone number.
Nacogdoches, Texas. Okay, Jerome. I feel like Ultra Magnus with Blur. I forget the Transformers, the triple change. Is something wrong with this timer? All right, Jerome, what's on your mind?
It just kills me that these Codys and Carries try to tell us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, and when we do, they try to sabotage us. Look at what happened with Black Wall Street. I'm always going to refer back to that. We were able to surpass them, and then what did they do? They proceeded to bomb our houses, our churches, our businesses, and they want to sit up here and act like we don't know how to run anything when we have a whole doggone history of running businesses, successful ones at that. And then they try to lie about us, and they don't want us in leadership positions because they know that when we do get in that position, we know they know we're gonna take the whole company in an entire new direction. They're so sensitive. They don't care. Just notice when we talk about reparations and what's due to us. Look at the look on their faces. They stutter. They try to play head games on us. They try to lie. They try to say that we're not slaves, which we don't have to be a physical slave, but the effects are still there. Remember what happened?
Remember, their whole idea is to want two things. Number one, they don't say these things because they're true. They say these things because in order to keep committing an atrocity, everyone has to agree on something. In the words of Dr. John Henry Clarke, even if that something is a lie. Everyone has to agree on something. There's the reason for it. Now, if they can agree on something, then you can have power in that. So just remember, it's not about whether or not it is accurate. It's about whether or not we can all agree. And they can agree on that. Because what they're doing, they're speaking in code. He can't substantiate that they work harder than us or do more than us, but they're saying the statement. Now, what they're not agreeing that they work harder than us. They're simply agreeing that they're on top and they should be there. However they phrase these things, that's irrelevant. They're speaking in code, and that's what they're trying to say. And to each other, they understand that. Because when they're by themselves, the first thing they'll say is, it doesn't matter that we don't work as much as them. It doesn't matter. So long as we run it, we're supposed to be running it. We're supposed to be running it. We're white, aren't we? But they're not going to say that to you.
That's what these Codys think. They don't care. They think we're stupid. We're not stupid. We're onto the game these days. They act like we don't know how to run business. But when you look back at Wall Street, back at Black Wall Street and Rosewood, and I can think of others. We had Slocum. Remember Slocum, Texas? All those successful businesses. And what did they do when they saw us? When the successful businesses, they said, what are these niggers doing in these fancy houses? We're supposed to have them. We're white. What did they do? They stole, which is not shocking. We know what they do. Whenever we succeed, they try to sabotage us. And they still sabotage us everywhere we go. Every step of the way, they sabotage us as black people. Not stupid. They just try to do it to us because they know that when we get an inch in business, we're going to take that extra mile. That's what they know.
Well, I want to be a little bit more clear here. When Bill Maher was talking to Charlemagne, you notice that when Bill started disputing it, Charlemagne was the one who moved. When they said 10 times as much, Bill pushes back on that, and then Charlemagne says, 5 times. That's the reaction that they look for. That's the reaction that they're used to. That's the reaction that they're accustomed to. That they say up is down is up, and we say, yes, of course, up is down and down is up. Everybody knows that. And that's the way the game has been played, and that's the way that they're used to us responding. They're used to getting that response that whatever they say, no matter how ridiculous, we just roll with it. That's what they're accustomed to, that we just roll with it. So you're seeing it in real time that when they speak like that, they're talking like that because they're used to when they speak and when they say it, we just go along. They're not used to the idea that they say something and we don't accept it as fact.
Well, you know what? Today is going to be a new day. It's been a new day as recently. We're not taking that anymore. We're woke. We're aware of what they're doing. We're aware of the head game that they're trying to play.
Well, I would advise you that that's not a head game, though. I would advise you all. I know it feels like one, but it's not a head game. It's a power dynamic. Remember what I've always taught you all. If you want to know what a black person truly thinks, put them in front of a white person. They have grown accustomed to the circumstance that when we speak, or that when they talk, we just go along with it. So in reality, it's not as much of a head game as you might think. It's a power dynamic. They're used that if we say something and they bark back or they push back, that we abandon our position. That's what the civil rights generation has done, that we're going to water it down. We're going to try to make them feel comfortable. Malcolm X is not revolutionary to us. He was revolutionary to his generation because his generation was used to, if white folks say, we don't agree with that, you start changing you. You don't sit there and tell them, well, you're wrong. You need to change what you're doing. That's what they're accustomed to having happen. And we're articulating on our side, but this is what they expect on their side. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I want my chat room to be serious here too, by the way. If folks are trying to use it as an opportunity to be class clown, not a good idea. You need to be on somebody else's page if that's what you're going to be. I know some folks here, some of the other shows they like to listen to out there. Some of those shows are not on tonight. No, this is the broadcast on tonight. So we're here for the grown folks. So for some of the folks who are used to the class clowns and the shows and the comedians, that's not us. So you might want to go ahead and snuff that blunt out and see if you can go get you something a little bit cheaper to drink than you've already got. Caller from area code 612. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is George calling from Michigan, but I'm from Minnesota.
Hi, George.
How are you doing tonight, brother?
George from Minneapolis by way of Michigan tonight. What's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, brother. I just want to make some comment. I always like to contribute to your show. Do you realize that the Foundation of Black Americans are the most attacked? They are the most attacked black people globally. And there's a reason for that. I find it extremely very treacherous when other migrants come to America and instead of standing with their brothers, they go against them. Look, we have to understand that the Foundation of Black Americans are the most attacked black set of people globally because they are the pivoters of the black race. What they say and stand by it goes across the world for the black people. And it's treasonous and treacherous when migrants come in and try to undermine them. You are indirectly throwing shade on your own people as black people. Because if you look at it very well, from a global scale, black Americans have defined freedom, even amongst other races. The Vietnam War was brought to a halt by black Americans. Their morality understands in anything as far as morality is concerned globally. It holds true. So I just want to make the point that when migrants come in here, they have to sit back, take a closer look and see what is actually happening. If you go with the flow by undermining the Foundation of Black Americans, you are indirectly undermining the entire black race globally. And we always have to maybe stay conscious about that and understand the game of what is going on. That's why even there are things that you see globally where the people we're talking about something else around the world, and then they'll go around and attack something related to the Foundation of Black Americans. That's the reason why they have always tried to put out derogatory type of image and project it to the world about Foundation of Black Americans. That is still the attack. And when black people see that, they should understand that they are being attacked. We as an entire race is being attacked. The only people that stand toe-to-toe with the most vicious racist system in this world is the Foundation of Black Americans. So we should always have that in mind and always stand by them, because that is our game. Whether we like it or not, they are the ones that hold the fort and say what it is and mean what they say. I just want to contribute that.
Well, definitely, I'm glad to hear from you here, George, as always. And, the issue is this idea that if you collaborate with the white supremacist power structure, that you're going to get a pass, when in reality, and I know and we know that's not what's going to happen. When you collaborate with them, all you're really doing is jockeying to be the last ones they put on the trains to dock out. That's all you're really fighting for. Congratulations, you weren't first on the train. Everybody else is on, and then you get on last. As if that's an improvement. There's the problem. I'll let you have the last word.
Thank you very much, brother, for all you do and for keeping us on court. Be one, brother. Keep doing what you do.
Black First, brother, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. That's Brother George there. I'll put this in its proper perspective, too, in its proper context also. You got to understand, there's a reason that they get the folk they get in the NFL, and this dovetails off of Bill Maher. So Robert Griffin III, he got a job as a quarterback, and I have to remind you all, do you really think that Robert Griffin was the, or even one of the best quarterbacks being drafted out of college that year? You really think he was? I've proven it to you all. I've proven it over and over again. I've got them in my film. These guys who get these quarterback positions, you can't get a quarterback position if you're not considered to be a safe Negro. You can't have it. And if it turns out definitively that you are not, then you're sure not going to keep it. Ain't that right, Kaepernick? So if you get that position, you've been vetted. They want to know. It's like, hey, you ain't going to rock that damn boat. See, what they're looking for are Negroes who, if the worst that they're going to do is get in an interview and talk about their racism in the interview. Okay, but you know what they're not doing? They're not getting up and walking. They're not going on strike. They're not doing that. And Robert Griffin isn't going to do anything. All they have to do is get him some expensive liquor and some cheap non-black women, and he's on board. Whatever it is. He ain't even asking what it is. Whatever it is. You want to talk about media? By the way, what the hell would qualify him for anything anyway? What the hell would? I know he doesn't have a commentating job somewhere. I know he doesn't have one. Who in the hell wants to hear what he's got? Who in the hell wants to hear a microphone parked in front of his bubbly lips? Who in the hell wants to see that? Tell me who in the world is looking for pontifications from Robert Griffin? What did he do in sports that makes him credible to speak on anything? I would say that he should speak on what he knows, which is football, but based on his performance in the NFL, clearly that would be a misnomer also. Damn! So I can't ask Robert to speak on what he knows. Oh, I guess he is speaking on what he knows. Buck dancing. I mean, he took it to a whole damn new level. Angel Reasoning, Kristen Clark, come save Kristen Clark, Miss Daisy. She is in a racist wars. Here comes Robert. Understand something. What I'm telling you is that this Negro sat up here and suffered it, got his ass broken open and handed to him, and here he got kicked, got basically run out the damn league. And all these years later, when he resurfaces, he's letting you know, oh, well, at least the white women down at Olive Garden recognize me. At least they know who I am. Now, he doesn't get to get any of the fly white girls. He doesn't get any of them. He doesn't get any of that. But he's showing you he's still jockeying for it. And here's the crazy thing about this. Y'all gotta understand, fellas like Robert are bitter. Robert is bitter and angry because he was just stupid and wrong on all counts. He was just dumb and wrong on all counts. So he tried to get away from black folk, and black folks said, okay, you're on your own. He ran the white society. I don't need none of you niggas here. I found the right one. Come on over here, Miss Daisy. Y'all gonna take care of me. They took care of his ass, didn't they? That turned out disastrously. So Robert is upset because no black folk came to his defense. I know it was eating him alive because he was watching Kaepernick and saying, I'll be damned. Wasn't nobody coming to my defense like that. Nobody was coming caping for Robert. When he finally got his big bug-eyed nigga wake-up call, wasn't nobody caping for him. So Robert's like Charles Barkley. Black folk ain't never really rock with no Charles Barkley. Black folk wasn't rocking with him. So he knows if anything happens to him, he doesn't have a people to come to his defense. He doesn't have that. It ain't there. And Robert Griffin knows the same thing. He doesn't have anybody to come to his defense. He doesn't have it. No, it's with somebody like Cam Newton, it's all good as long as you don't get injured and you stay in their good graces. If you can stay in their good graces and you're a racehorse that doesn't get injured, you can continue engaging in that fantasy, even though you know it ain't real. So you can sit there and play make-believe just so long as something real don't happen to you. An injury is real. An arrest is real. A false allegation is real. Losing a step is real. Being unable to perform is real. When it run out, then all of a sudden you're going to find out where you really stand, and then the behavior's going to change then. So they keep it up as long as they're in good graces. As soon as this run out, So as long as something real doesn't happen to them, they can pretend about it. They can pretend about it. Call from area code 757. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Tanya from Virginia Beach.
All right, Tanya from Virginia Beach. What's on your mind?
I'm looking at the irony of immigrants, not necessarily Mexicans, but people of color. I'm being cute. Black immigrants. They are almost 3 generations in this country. They're approaching their 3rd generations. And I lived in New York, and I seen it in Harlem. The children embrace black culture. And even though their parents want to be tethered and white, the children want to be black and embrace black culture. So in 3 generations, the children are losing their accent, dressing like our children. And that wake-up call to be just black is coming. So they're going to be black sooner than they ever was immigrant.
Well, here's the thing. What you said is only accurate if they are brutally confronted by white supremacy. If they're able to avoid it, then basically you got the Byron Donalds and basically the coon train rolls on. There's the problem. It doesn't just interacting with us certainly does help certain ones to a certain degree. Ones who are disaffected by their parents and are more prone to not just go along with whatever they say. Yeah, you're always going to have that. But as a group, and I'm talking about New York in particular, if they aren't just directly confronted by it, they go off in their groups. As you know, in New York, you got your little Nigerian neighborhoods and your Haitian neighborhoods, and and they basically go hold off over there. Now, they don't have any interaction with white folk, and to the extent that they do, it's always a hello, Mr. Charlie type of interaction. And as long as that's the case, they kind of just keep going. So if they don't have the good fortune to interact with us, or if Mr. Charlie don't do something really brutal, they'll keep going. They'll keep going. I would advise folks not to underestimate that. And here's the real issue about it. It used to be easier to have that type of influence. Over time, it gets more difficult because now they're flooding the zone so much with it. They're flooding the zone with it so much right now. When you got your Kristen Clarks and your Karine Jean-Pierre's, it gets more difficult as time goes on with that. So for us, I'm not saying that what you're saying is incorrect, but what I am saying is that there's a strong headwind against that. And I don't see that headwind getting weaker because they're bringing, what keeps fueling it is first generations. And they've got a steady supply of first generationers that they keep bringing over. So that second and third generation, basically the federal government's policy is to keep that at a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every 2 kids they have, we're going to bring 3 refugees over here. And you saw that basically, hell, with what you saw them busting in from Texas did that. So I'm not saying that what you're saying is completely wrong there. I'm just saying, just understand that there's a headwind where that is concerned. If we had the ability to turn that spigot off, it'd be a little bit different. I'll let you have the last word.
Good point. Thank you so much. I'm going to continue enjoying the broadcast. B1.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Like I said, definitely if they have exposure to us, that certainly helps. It goes a long way. However, our experience has been somebody's got to sit up here and jack them up real bad before they accept that fat meat is greasy. And, it's really a situation where up until now, we haven't really had the ability to, we've made more time to be able to do that. It's not about do they dance to the songs we made or wear the shoes that we made popular. It's not about that. It all comes down to, by the way, how do you respond to white supremacy? Are you responding to it like us, or are you responding to it like anything less than us? Anything less. And if that's the case, that's a problem. If that's the case, that's a problem. You're dealing with so many influences there. The media companies and everything else they put up, you're dealing with so many influences that are dedicated toward the task of confusing, indoctrinating, making you comfortable where you are. Then you add to that your parents and your families. Yeah, man, it's bad. It's bad. So it's only when somebody flips bad on them, it's like, it's white supremacy. If they have the ability to stay exposed to us for an extended period of time, but even in New York now, where do they have the ability to do that? Where do they have the ability to do that? We're talking tonight here about exposing the racial myth of white excellence as promoted by Bill Maher, when he has the nerve and the gall to talk about he doesn't believe that black folk have to work 5 times as hard as white people. That's a zombie lie. Here was my initial response to that. How the hell would Bill know? What? How the hell would he know? Who the hell is Bill Maher? With what authority, with what knowledge, with what insight? How many times has he been a black person competing in a white system and seen, it ain't like that? How would he know? If you're going to challenge something and dispute something here, my first thing is, okay, what's your frame of reference? Where's your frame of reference to speak? With what authority do you know we're not doing 5 times as much? What did you see? What have you experienced as one of us that shows you that? See, it's one thing if you say Bill Maher has a TV show and Tamron Hall has a TV show. Or that Bill Maher has a TV show making jokes and D.L. Hughley has a TV show making jokes. Well, Bill Maher can speak as a person with a TV show. Some people might think he can speak as a comedian. But he can't speak as a black person and say, hey, I've been a black person and I didn't have to work any harder than the white dudes. Now, if he could say that, then he'd have a leg to stand on. But he can't. He can't. But furthermore, the numbers are what bear it out. That was the reason why I was showing the article from CNN that I did. Folks, when you take a look at that metric right there, you take a look at white median wealth and you take a look at black median wealth, you take a look at that chasm, you take a look at that gap. And he said, that hadn't been true since the 1970s. Folks, if it hadn't been true since the 1970s, what the hell explains this number on your screen? unless you are going to make the argument that white folk just work 10 times harder than black people do. The problem isn't that you all have to work 10 times harder. The problem is you're only a tenth as good as us. Because that's the only logical conclusion you can come to. That's the only one. That we must be working 10 times. That we're only doing a tenth of the value of the quality of work. 1/10 the ethic there. But then again, even if you're a super coon family in Chicago from Nigeria, you still have to answer. By the way, you take a look at the NFL. Shouldn't that be showing there? I mean, if these guys got all that playing time and whatnot, Deion Sanders is clearly proven, well, got better IQs about that, and yet you don't see it happening there either. You see, you can't make these statements because we don't have a true meritocracy. You have a white supremacist autocracy, not a meritocracy. You don't have any objective selection going on. You have a bunch of white men, and they choose other white men, and then occasionally throw a black person out there as a token to say, okay, leave us alone. But there is no objective selection criterion going on. It's not happening. It's not happening. Nobody is being objective. We don't have an unbiased source. And understand, in our society, we know that this is true because the closer that you get to an unbiased source, all of a sudden, we start excelling. When it comes to restaurants, when we are allowed to operate unmolested, we take off. When we operate unmolested, we take off. When we're allowed to compete head to head, when it's your plate of food against our plate, we win consistently. Well, I'll be damned, when you're not able to put your fingers on the scales, we win. In the world of sports, when they're not allowed to put their fingers on the scales, we win. In the world of being a comedian, when they're not allowed to put their finger on the scales and to rig the game, when people get to choose what they genuinely like, and they have to make a value judgment, otherwise the money that they spent is wasted. When they have to make a choice and nobody gets to artificially hobble it or dilute it, what do you know? All of a sudden we start winning, and not just winning once in a blue moon. Why, we win consistently whenever it's a meritocracy. When it's a true meritocracy and it's nobody's judgment involved, it's performance involved, all of a sudden we start winning. Which is why the only place we start losing is when they say, well, we're not going off of performance. We're going off of how we feel about you here. We're going off how we feel. Once again, I remind you all that this is the reason why we have a black media. This is the reason why you have us here. This is the reason why you have the conversation that you're having. This is the reason why you have Bill Maher trying to run interference, because you've got a black media now, and it's not just a one-way conversation anymore. And we're pushing back on these things, and he's not giving an answer to it. And boy, that looks real bad when you do that. Yeah, it looks like we're correct. It looks like we're telling the truth on this. It looks like you're running a scam. Because you are. Caller Americode 646, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, good evening. This is Jessica from New York.
All right, Jessica from New York. What's on your mind?
I just want to add to your point. So I work at a school where students have to take a test to get in, and I've only been there for 3-4 years. But what I do notice, the black students that have full support of both parents and mom. Mom and dad support at home, been there for them. Those kids tend to do a lot better than all of the other subgroup of ethnic kids because it's a multicultural school. And the black kids that have great support at home, the past 3 years, I noticed when they get to my grade, they outperform all the other group of kids. And they still do all the sports and still maintain a better GPA than like the so-called Asians that don't really do any sports. They still outperform those kids.
It's never accidental. And furthermore, let me go ahead and deal with that last thing right there. There was one thing that it slipped my mind there for a moment. So glad you called in, by the way. So glad you called in. Hey, y'all, one more thing. Remember what I said earlier about those Asian degrees? Weren't there a bunch of scandals about specifically Asian college students and their families routinely purchasing and paying people off to get them their degrees? Damn! Not just one school, not just one college. It wasn't just Harvard. We see this Harvard, UCLA across the board. But do you know why you see this at Harvard and UCLA and other institutions across the board? Because that's what they do in China. What? No, don't believe me. You can Google it. Buying degrees, paying people off to get them their degrees. That is a common thing in China. Common. Very, very common. Folks paying for their degrees, their families paying for the degrees. Man, you too good to study here. Let me just buy this damn master's degree. And when they come over here, they're like, hey, what you talking about studying? Here, let me give you this $25,000. Here, let me give you this $100,000. And the same thing in the nursing schools, yeah. But by the way, one more thing about that Asians with their higher degrees and postgraduate degrees. By the way, haven't we had a number of scandals now? Not involving us. Wasn't involving us. It was only involving two groups, whites and Asians. Just two. Just two. Not us. Whites and Asians. If a black person's got a degree, even if they're the biggest coon in the room, they had to earn it. They had to earn that. Ain't nobody giving us nothing. If a black person has their degree, even if they're the biggest coon in the room, they had to earn it. I'll let you have the last word.
And even what you said about even if the biggest coon, because even I have a scholar that get into one of these elite private schools in New York City. He took the test, did really good, and he's practically going for free. He's black. He's a little bit coonish. And some of his classmates still don't believe how he get into the school because the other get in entering 8th grade and the other ones they're going to try to get in entering 9th grade. They still don't believe how he get in, even though he took the test fair and he used his grades. He took the scholarship test where he's going to practically go for free, and then he took the other test where you perform very well, practically going for free. And his classmates still don't believe how he get in because he acts so silly. He acts a little bit coonish at times, but they still don't believe how he's smart. And it's kind of it's interesting witnessing this amongst the teenage group of kids.
Well, like I say, I mean, hopefully if they're exposed enough and whatnot, they can get themselves straightened out. If they don't, they just grow up being stupid. And what eventually happens is they find themselves off isolated on an island somewhere where they spend the rest of their lives as white society's brain screwed lapdog. Here's the thing. They all know it. None of them are deceived.
So how do you?
They all know it. Byron Donalds knows it. Ben Carson knows it. Thomas Sowell knows it. All of them know that they sold their souls. And you know they do because the second that they ask for something and they know they're the most qualified person and they hand it to a white person, all of a sudden they change. Ain't that right, Michael Steele? Ain't that right, Michael?
So how do you?
Ain't that right, Henry Skip Lewis Gates? Ain't that right? They play dumb right up until it's something that they want and they know they're the most qualified person, and then they have to sit there and watch them hand it to a white person. Then all of a sudden racism exists. But only for a little while when they realize they can't run us. By the way, Candace Owens. Oh, she's out there and whatnot. She got her little feelings hurt. Go ahead.
How do you help them
You
to
don't.
identify or get that black pride?
You don't.
Because you try to talk to them, but they're not interested.
You don't. You do not try to convince them of anything here. White society gonna do all the talking. Okay. Please understand, they didn't end up where they are by accident. They ended up where they are by choice. And the only thing that's going to stop them from doing that at this point, you're not dealing with little children who cannot see. There's where the fallacy comes in. You're not dealing with little children who can't see. It's one thing if you're dealing with a person who can't see. It is another thing when you're dealing with someone who's lying to you or to themselves. Now, that's a big difference.
Got it.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Yeah, little old Candace Owens, every time she's got her little ass in the crack here, she starts trying to associate with black folk again, and she thinks that's going to work. And every time she gets her ass into a crack, which is all the damn time now, so baby, it's too late. You over there with Zaddy. He gonna give you the work. He gonna give you the business. He's gonna give you the work and he gonna give you the business. Don't come over here looking for us. We don't know you. You don't have any support over here, ma'am. Get back over there and take your damn lumps. We don't know you. We don't fool with you. She can feel the walls closing in. She knows how this story ends. She knows full damn well at the end of the day, there's no way in this side of Southwest hell that they're going to sit up here and give her preferential treatment over a white man. Not going to happen. And she knows it. That's why she's worried. She's worried about her long-term prospects now. Things done got real. She knows full damn well. Piers Morgan and Ben Shapiro, she's like, okay, there's no way in the hell they're going to keep backing me against these white men. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. She knows that thing ain't going to run for no amount of time. She knows just as soon as black folks start making it look a little bit better, they're going to tell her, by the way, hey, heifer, we're going to lay it on you too. Caller from area code 224, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Last try. Caller from area code 224, you're on live.
Hello?
Yes, you're on live. Put the crack pipe down. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Mike. I'm calling from Chicago.
Mike from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Basically, I like to talk about the conversation that Tariq had with Myron and what's his name, Sneeko.
Well, definitely here. Like I say, I only listened to that for a couple of minutes. I got tired of hearing Tariq dog walking them. It was pathetic on their side of it. So it wasn't even funny. It was absolutely ridiculous. I'm just like, okay, at this point right now, their YouTube accounts need to be revoked. We want to stay on topic here tonight, though, everybody. We want to stay on topic here tonight. So thank you very much for giving us a call. But yeah, They gave it their best shot. I would like to say it was embarrassing, but that would be too generous. So case in point here, you understand that when we get something, we earn that. That's why we can tell you that we worked so much harder than everybody else. The black kids can see. The white kids can get tutors. The white kids can get nepotism. The white kids get preferential treatment. The black kids like, hey, ain't nobody's ever accused any of us of buying anything. No one's ever accused us. Understand something. Name for me the black CEO who sank a Fortune 500 company. Name for me the black CEO that they're investigating the company for accounting fraud. No, let's stop with the lies and the bullcrap, Bill Maher. Name for me the company with a black CEO where they're sitting up here, oh, they're being investigated for accounting fraud. Name that one for me. Show me where that's been going on. Show me where we've been put in charge of something and all of a sudden there's irregularities. The company's done gone broke, this, that, and the other. Tell me when the hell that's happened. If this is a whole issue of them being so great and wonderful and everything like that, by the way, this is just like with the police. You don't hear about black police officers. Black police officers are a minority, although in a majority in some cities, and yet folk ain't getting shot in the back nowhere. Now, how is it that the white police officers are always shooting folk in the back? The black police officers are not gunning down any unarmed people. Well, that would sound like we damn sure excel. Hey, Bill Maher, can you explain that statistic to us? Can Bill Maher explain to us why it is that, by the way, even in so-called police misconduct, the black police officers are, for some reason, that they're not responsible for gunning down all these unarmed people. The white dudes are. Can you explain to us why that is? That the black police officers are apparently, amazingly, somehow intuitive? To the extent that they don't have to shoot nobody who didn't need to get shot most of the time? And the white police officers are shooting folk all over the place they shouldn't be. Can you explain why that is? Because that looks like somebody is 10 times better.
And deal with it, nigga.
That's what it seems like to me. That seems like somebody who's 5 or 10 times better. So I'm just going off the numbers here. Explain to me how in the hell they're 5 and 10 times better. You know, in a true meritocracy, is that person over there armed or are they not? The black police officers are routinely able to discern correctly, and the white ones routinely are not. With nobody there to rig the game or put their finger on the scales. When you don't have somebody there to sit up here and tip the scales in their favor and they have to really go off of real performance, it doesn't happen that way. In the chat room, the place that I lived, I need you to call up. In the chat room, the place that I live needs to call up. We're going to give you a couple of minutes here to be on the line. The place that I live needs to call up. While he's doing that, I want to remind everybody here that the crowdfunding for 8 a.m. is going on here now. We got guys like Bill Maher on the run. I'm waiting to see if we're going to get over 50,000 tonight. We got 3,600 people in here live right now. We're kind of impromptu. I do want to do another program here tomorrow night, but we got 3,600 people in here live right now. Just remember, that's another reason. Hey, say about it whatever in the world you want to. The Asians put their money behind what they believe. Here, let me go ahead and bribe you through this college. Let me bribe you through this college. So they are definitely on code about that. They are on code about that. We don't have the ability to sit up here and bribe them folks like that. If we did, they would immediately go to the police. If we did, they would immediately go to the police. See, if you black, you can't really do it like that. Every time black folk try to do something, if you step 1 foot outside the lines, they got you. You infringe on anything, you can't bribe people off. The black politicians can't bribe anybody and they can't get bribed. The black politicians try to play that dirty game. They sit up here and let you get about 3 good bribes and then they come arrest you on federal charges. You don't get to be the corrupt black power broker. You don't get to be that. You don't get to be the corrupt paymaster. You don't get to be that. Marion Barry couldn't get a drug habit. Remember? Damn, getting payoffs. They couldn't get Marion Barry. They were so hoping he was corrupt. They were so hoping there was something they could get him on. They couldn't get him on the damn thing. No, you can't. That can't happen. That can't happen. Oh, Fannie Willis, they said, hey, heifer, ain't you getting divorced? Next thing you know, all her business was out there. They said, ain't you getting divorced? Let's see if we can go looking through that. They went digging through her divorce files until they found something. I mean, not her getting divorced, but her boyfriend. They was like, oh, ain't you got a boyfriend? Okay, you ain't dirty. Let's see if we can look into him. Let's see if there's something on him. Okay, no, let's see if we can get something on him. You don't get to be black and do that. You don't get to do that. Regardless of political party, you don't get to do that. You try to be dirty. You try to be slick. You try to be corrupt. You try to take a bribe. And they're going to have you on 6 different cameras and 8 different audio devices in 4K. You don't get to do that. The place that I live, you got 1 more minute here or you will be removed. Isn't that amazing there, folks? By the way, if you're going to say something like that, you should be standing by it. No, this is the place right here that lets them, and let them talk, Jason. He lets them go ahead and do that. By the way, they're so secure. You're so secure in what you believe that you won't stand by it. See, there's the reason why everything's going down. You used to be able to sit up here and say, I'm white and I say so. I'm a coon and I say so. And nobody was able to push back. Nobody was able to debunk it. There wasn't a public forum where people said, hey, why don't you explain what you just said? And then they get to decide if what you said made any sense or not. Juxtaposition against what they know. Now that you have the ability to do that, now you have a different problem. Okay, the place that I live, that's not a request. So if you're not calling in, you can be carried out. In any case, no, sir, that's not a request. That's an order. You are allowed to dispute the host. You cannot dispute the host in the chat room. You are allowed to dispute the host. You cannot dispute the host in the chat room. If you lodge a dispute, you are required to call in so everybody can hear you. You might sound like a 10-year-old that a bunch of adults are hiding behind. You might sound like that. And I just want people to hear, because when people read sentences, they usually read it in their own voice. When you all read sentences, you usually read it in your own voice. And you read it with your own cadence. And you read it with your own level of articulation. So because of that, you'll be assuming that these people who say things like that are a lot smarter than they are, because in reality, you're reading it with your voice. But if I can get them to call in and then you hear what they sound like, yeah, What about Chicago? Oh, man, when somebody don't get this damn handyman off this damn phone. He's on the short yellow bus and the short yellow building. Get him out of here. What the hell? I thought, like, this nigga here sounds like he's drunk. 21 years old and falling down drunk. It's okay. Oh, that's the people disagreeing. Those are the folks who disagree. Just like the kid whose parents had put him up to calling up here earlier. Yeah, those are the folks who say things like, Bill Maher, right? Bill Maher, right? And the North Side teller up there.
That's the problem. Yeah, Jason, if you would let us do that right there, we work so much harder, and that's the problem. You all are not doing much you good. You didn't.
Nigga, go get you some Mucinex. What? Get you some Mucinex and some Claritin. And a couple of rolls of Charmin. Not even the Kleenex. Let's get you something that can really go up in there and take care of that mess. But I want you all to see what they sound like so you can finally hear. Our competition isn't a brain trust. Our competition isn't a bunch of geniuses. Our competition isn't the best and brightest. Hell, our competition ain't no damn competition. That's why I host these programs, so you all can hear that. They're not our competition. Now we can actually hear what they sound like. Now you can hear what they got to say. If they could articulate their arguments, they'd be able to do so very, very quickly. It'd be very, very simple. I do it all the time. And by the way, that was the best they could do to come to Bill Maher's defense. That was the backup. Those were the reinforcements to come to Bill Maher's defense. That's the best they could do. That was it. That was it. So I want you all to understand that they're trying their best. Bill was so damn pathetic. He didn't even try to articulate it because they realize now they can't. But I want you all to take in things like tonight's program. You're going to run into these things in other places. You're going to run into it reworded in different ways, but the argument will be the same. Ain't no white supremacy. You've got the same opportunities the rest of us do. And you need to have it articulated for you why that is absolutely untrue. And then when they try to throw the model minorities at you, I sat here and dissected this tonight and reminded you, hey, by the way, over the last 15 years, I've explained to you why these numbers are the numbers that you see and what they really mean. These other folks ain't gonna do that. Hell, when I asked them to explain it, they couldn't say anything. That's what you come to us for. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Before I do anything else, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program. On PayPal, Venmo, Super Chat here. We got a bunch of folks here who've gotten new memberships on the channel. Black to Deaf has gifted some. Thank you very much here. JC M. Brooks, Shawnee Swear. Thank you very much for becoming members here on the channel tonight. And to everyone else who has contributed, and if you are new here to the Black channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent Black thought. We do this all the time, every weekend and some weekdays. We're going into Juneteenth, so I consider it to be important here that I make a good, strong showing about this, and I want all of you to be here for it as well. Not for what the world tells us these things mean, but for what we made them into. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, go and check out our previous documentary work, 7 a.m. Gentrified Race War. And the link is in the description, and my mods have posted it for our newest documentary, 8 a.m. Bill Maher and the rest of them will be mad as hell at that because we are going into it deeper than we ever have. with an absolute all-star lineup from top to bottom, and I want to see every single one of you there. So the link is in the description. My mods are going to post that for you here as well. Be on top of that. We have a long road ahead of us, but I want all of you to be a part of it, and I can't wait to see your name next to mine. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program. Thank you for watching live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.